Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you all for joining us here today. I'm going to talk you to some details about the open source program here at Salesforce and take you through the details of some top projects that are important for you. Um, and if you have any questions, you can always find us after this session. And before I begin this session, our forward-looking statement to make the suggestion is to always make your purchasing decisions based on what is commercially available today. So at Salesforce, we have contributed tons of open source and also open sourced hundreds of different projects that are available publicly. This is to kind of like help and promote to work better with the community and make things easier for all of us. If you kind of like go to this URL, opensource.salesforce.com, you'll be able to actually see through a lot of details around our program. You'll be able to access all the different projects, as well as the blogs created by a few experts. So today, I'll be taking you through some top 3 key important projects that you all could use after you go back. So the first one is ApexUnit. And this project is mainly around the aspect of simplifying the problems related to your code quality management around Apex. So particularly when you are running a large-scale enterprise org and trying to deal aspects around your code coverage or test coverage and trying to bring in aspects around isolation of different services or components, or say you have multiple Scrum teams wherein you are trying to isolate the test results for the service ownership that you may have in a particular application or a service. So from that perspective, I think it brings in a challenge of how do I kind of like isolate the different test results or isolate the different code coverage results that are important to me as an individual or my team. And that's where ApexUnit kind of like evolved with the goal mainly with the intent to kind of like mimic the aspects from XUnit frameworks like JUnit or TestNG. So it's a CLI-based tool created in Java, seamlessly integrates with any of your CI engines. We prefer to use Jenkins, but you're welcome to use any CI engine of your choice. It seamlessly leverages the asynchronous API from the platform to schedule your tests remotely on the org. It also has the capability to provide you some extensive code coverage results, wherein you're able to take through the items and leverage some actionable items out of that. It also has an aspect where you will be able to customize the various different quality thresholds and be able to incrementally improve and contribute on it. And this is the most important thing, grouping and filtering. And this helps you to kind of like apply the aspect of the filtering or isolation of the source code or test code that you might be working with. And there are 2 ways to do it. One is a static, which is kind of like a manifest file, which you are hard coding the things around all the different source class names or the test class names in your configs. And the second one is a dynamic way, wherein you will be able to actually leverage the aspects of the power of regular expressions that kind of like either match to the names of your source classes versus the test classes, to be able to handpick a cherry pick a subset of your source code or test code to be able to either run the test cases or calculate the code coverage that is relevant to you. So here is a demo. And I need someone to start the video there. Can someone click the play button, please? Yeah, thank you. So here is my configuration for this project set up on my Jenkins. When I click on the build button, you'll be able to see a lot of different parameters related to authentication, your OAuth setup, client ID, and client secret, and so on. And you'll also be able to customize certain thresholds related to it. Once you get to the build console of your particular job execution, you'll be able to actually see all the different actions it's doing. And particularly, it's actually now interacting with the tooling API to calculate the code coverage for the pre-configured source classes and also run some test cases. As you can see here, I have actually a failure, and once I refresh the screen, I'll be able to actually look at the more details of the failure here. So on the once I go into the test failure of this thing in the test area, so you'll be able to actually see that one of my test classes has failed, and the main reason is that there is an inconsistent data there on why this test case has failed. And coming to this report, the HTML report, it kind of like actually shows me a canned code coverage result for the source classes that I care about. And the table talks about the API version of the metadata I'm using, the code coverage of covered lines versus uncovered lines. And to the right, when I scroll to the right, you'll be actually able to see the length of the source class in bytes. This gives me a sense of how long or how large my source class is. And the JUnit report parser, kind of like it's a plugin that's available in the open source. You could leverage it to actually get a bird's eye view of all your classes that have either succeeded or failed in this particular scenario. So that's kind of like a short demo. Can I go to the next slide, please? Next, please, again. Thank you. So here are the links to the resources. The first link talks about how to get started with it, and the second link is more about the aspects where if someone is interested to make contributions to this particular repository or the project, or you have some ideas to enhance some features or fix some bugs or documentations. So those are the URLs to get started with. So with that, I invite my colleague Gunnar to kick off the next project.
Am I on? Hey, hello, my name is Gunnar. If you're interested in German pronunciation, it's Viking Connect, but don't bother. I work as a developer. I worked over the last year. I contributed to a project that is entirely open source and that I'd like to introduce you to today. It's our extension for the Salesforce DX development workflow in VS Code. Who is a Salesforce developer? Oh, nice, that's a nice group. And who knows about Visual Studio? And who knows about our extension? Oh, okay, good. It's not everyone, so yes. So what we do here in the extension, I prepared a short video. Can I get the video started, please? Yeah, so what you see here is a simple SFDX project that I opened in Visual Studio Code. And first thing you want to do, you want to install the extension from the marketplace, which is right embedded into VS Code. Just search for Salesforce extensions. All you need to do is click the install button. Once it's installed, it needs to reload. And what we do is we give you a nice integration with the Salesforce CLI, so you can invoke all the commands, all the important commands from VS Code. You don't have to fall back to the terminal. We ask for parameters. We provide you feedback that it's running, and we also give you feedback in case there were errors, right? So you can create scratch orgs, you can push and pull your code, and once you've done that, we also provide support for Apex development. So if you're using ApexUnit or whether to write Apex code, you can open an Apex class and you get a nice colored editor that not only provides you syntax highlighting, but also smart features like code completion. Right? So we analyze the class files that you have on your local file system and give you completion for the variables, the methods, the classes. We also support system types, and we do support custom types that custom classes that you create in your local workspace. right, in your project. For example, there's some type. It's something that I have local. It's not in my org. It's local on the file system. So I can do offline development for Salesforce with that. OK, and there's also other things in this editor. You can navigate, jump to the code, and do other things. Another nice feature is you can use the CLI to create new objects. Like you can create new classes, you can create Lightning components. Just invoke one of the commands. It asks for the mandatory input parameters, and that's it. Right? It just creates it on the file system for you, ready to do the work. OK. The last feature is those red circles or breakpoints. We do support Apex debugging. So if you have an Apex debugger license, you can debug Apex code right from the VS Code extension within that nice little tool. OK. Great. If Salesforce DX is new to you, take a picture of this slide. There's a really awesome trailhead about it, and there's also a whole documentation hub for Salesforce DX. And last but not least, the most important link is the GitHub Git repository of the VS Code extension. This is entirely open source, the whole extension. You can submit pull requests. If you run into issues, you find a bug, you can open an issue on the GitHub page and communicate directly with the developer behind that project because it's open source. Right? So you can also, we use a lot, we talk to a lot Salesforce APIs under the cover. So if you just want to look how we're doing it, feel free to also look at the source code. It's a license, open source license, OSI approved, available to anyone. You can reuse it in your own code if you want. OK, and with that, next tool.
Hello, Dreamforce. Thanks, Gunnar. Sometimes, in the rare situation, oh, is this showing? There we go. All right. Sometimes, in the rare situation, you might need to do something that looks and feels like the Salesforce platform, but is off-platform application, maybe in a Lightning container or something like that. My name is Stephen James, and I'm lead UX engineer for design systems and accessibility for off-platform applications here at Salesforce. And today, I'm going to talk about the Design System React library, which is the React implementation of the Lightning Design System. Where's the off-platform JavaScript? This question was asked inside and outside of Salesforce in 2015, 2016, when the Lightning Design System was created. SLDS is a CSS framework, and it started within the UX department more than 3 years ago. And at Salesforce, we have many, many products, as you know, and we strive to have a consistent UX across all of them so that entity search in one cloud is the same as entity search in another cloud. And we're moving toward that, and SLDS is our North Star. All Salesforce UI libraries look to for UX patterns. And the focus of Design System React is a high-quality experience for the end user, with a close second being a good dev experience. So project overview. These are light presentational components. So it's the very, very thin top layer of a UI stack if you're going to implement it. We have props that allow you to internationalize all your strings. It's compatible with Create React app without ejecting if you choose to use a no-build configuration application generator like that. The NPM package allows for tree shaking, so you can get smaller JavaScript bundles. And our testing suite has 3 different parts to it for the 3 surface areas that you might have for the UI component library. That is in-browser testing, so that you can do test user interactions and events. DOM snapshots, so that you can align with the Lightning Design System markup. And VRT, or visual regression tests, that allow you to look for visual changes, basically screenshots. And like React, any future API changes will warn you ahead of time through the warning consoles and the warning, so that you know, in dev mode only. And if you take away from this part of the talk one thing, it's the URL above, react.lightningdesignsystem.com. So you've probably already been to the Lightning website. So it's the same URL with just react.subdomain in front of it. So once you go to the doc site, what do we have? We have all the props listed out. We have component examples that you can see in a sandbox, play with the props. Our doc site is just a shell around the documentation that is based into the source code, so it's always synced and up to date. And with many open source, maybe you've seen some projects out there that implement the Salesforce Lightning Design System, but they primarily just focus on the markup. They don't have keyboard events, or they don't have accessibility aspects like focus management built into them. Well, as you've probably heard, accessibility is very key and important here at Salesforce, because we want to include all our users. So we make sure that DSR is tested against WCAG AA specification at least 4 times a year by an internal accessibility specialist. And that means you get non-mouse usage built in. And it's not just for assistive tech user. It also, as you know, a lot of folks just like to keep their hands on the keyboard as developers, right? So, next steps. We want to support our ISV community and partner community. So, if you see anything, file bugs, pull requests to fix. The scope of the library is anything you see in the Lightning Design System website. And then after this talk, if you have any questions about this project, meet me in this back corner over here and we can talk. And finally, here are some helpful links that you might want to take a snap with your camera. The GitHub repo, introductory blog post, a roadmap milestone on GitHub, and a code-based architectural overview. Looking forward to collaborating with you on GitHub, and if any of these 3 projects you find helpful, please star it there. And thank you for attending 3 great open source projects here that you need at Salesforce. And I know you've seen this slide a few times. Don't forget, Dev Keynote tomorrow at 1 p.m. Thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.